My people had been working every day, all the way through Saturdays, Sundays. And I remember giving them the rest of the afternoon off. Go back to your tents. Don't let anybody see you. Lay low. Take the day off. And so we did. And within hours, an RPG had landed almost directly behind where we were set up. I had no real family in the service to speak of. One of my main reasons for joining the military, I was in my mid-20s, and like a lot of people my age, I was kind of rudderless. I wanted some more purpose and fulfillment in my life. A lot of the guys that I was hanging out with, a lot of the people I was hanging out with were not the highest quality of people maybe, and I just knew that I needed to make a change. I joined the military in the summer of 1999. Went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for my basic training. My MOS was 51 Bravo, which at the time was combat engineering. Combat engineers are basically, were set up to build and engineer in combat situations. Upon finishing my AIT, I was stationed in West Monroe, Louisiana, the National Guard unit there. It was an interesting integration that you were part-time soldier and part-time civilian. And I think in the beginning that was probably one of the harder things for me, is learning how to juggle a civilian life and a military life at the same time. Still to this day, I say Roger to people who aren't in the military. If I'm not paying attention, I'll find myself standing at ease, talking to a civilian. It's one of those things that you never really break. I spent a lot of years bartending, which was, like I said, another different juxtaposition. You're living one kind of life outside of the military, and then it's hard to think of something that's more different from bartending than being a soldier on the weekend, because I worked late. So I would come sometimes straight from working to basically going home, showering, and going to drill. And I mean, 4 hours earlier, I was pouring drinks, and now I'm standing in a formation with 40 other people with my hands behind my back, ready to start the day. So you kind of have to wear these different hats and be different people, and know when to turn off a particular part of yourself and when to turn it back on. It was an interesting lifestyle. It was fun, but I don't miss that part of it. So I joined, like I said, in the summer of 1999, and then just a few years later, 9/11 happened.
Right, oh my God, another plane has just...
I remember that being a very important day, just because I think a lot of soldiers join the military in thoughts of being a soldier, but I don't think many soldiers join thinking about what happens if something like 9/11 occurs.
Where's Langley at? Where are the fighters?
And I think that day it became very real to me that I didn't just sign up for the Louisiana National Guard. I signed up for the U.S. Army. And that day changed many people's lives, and it changed my life that day as well.
And I've ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down,
Oh my God, there it goes!
and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand.
It was such a hectic time for everybody. You were saddened for the loss of life of your fellow civilians, but you were also very aware that this was an act of war. The reason I joined the military was to become a part of something bigger than myself. And so this was actually a moment where I felt that time was at hand.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
I was deployed in 2003. I was excited, I was nervous, I was scared. When I joined the Louisiana National Guard, I never thought that this is something that would happen. I knew that they were famous for when there was a hurricane or a stateside issue, stepping in. I never at once thought that being a member of the National Guard, I would be sent over to Afghanistan in a combat situation. But I was also dutiful to my country. I signed up for it. If you sign up for the military and you sign up hoping that you get school paid for or that you get a signing bonus, you also have to take with it the responsibility that comes with being a good soldier when it's time. I remember stepping off of that plane and wondering if I was the only one that felt like that they weren't completely ready for it. I think there's a part of you that wants to find out what you're made of in that situation. There was nothing in me that wanted to kill somebody. I had no major aggression that I felt I needed to get out or prove my worthiness, or I felt I was a good soldier. And by being a good soldier, I was ready to take care of what I needed to, whether it be combat or whether it be taking care of my other soldiers, or whether it be building a flight line, or whatever it took. I wanted to be a dependable soldier. I was deployed with the 527th Engineer Battalion. One of our major tasks was to build up and stabilize Bagram Air Force Base, build it up, solidify it, and basically turning it into a full-fledged base, expanding the flight line, expanding the living quarters, basically turning it from a camp into a city. We had a pretty normal work schedule. We would get up about 5, go to breakfast, and then get on the flight line and go to work. We were certainly aware of our surroundings. We had our weapons with us at all times. We were absolutely concerned about being attacked, whether it was RPGs or any other kind of attack. We knew to be vigilant. I remember one night that we had all went to sleep, and in the middle of the night, an RPG hit next to our tent. When I say next to, I mean close enough to where it shook everything around you. And I think every soldier has that question inside them. What happens when it all hits the fan? Like, what do I do? How do I react? Because it's easy to say, I'm gonna jump up and I'm gonna do this, and I'm going to be XYZ. But I think every soldier questions who they are when that moment hits. I grabbed my rifle and I got my guys with me, and we got organized. And even in that moment where you're kind of scared, there's a moment of pride where you realize, okay, I am a soldier. I'm not just pretending. In a strange way, that attack built us together stronger, because not only do you learn who you are, you learn who the people around you are when things go bad. And knowing that the people around you are strong and capable and willing and brave, it certainly makes life easier for you if you don't have to worry about the mental and emotional capacity of the people around you. Because I think we all kind of have that imposter syndrome where we wonder, am I pretending to be this, or am I really what I say I am? I remember finding out more about myself in that moment than I had in a long time. One of the great things about that deployment for me were some of the leaders that I was able to be under. There was one day we were out on the flight line. It was probably the beginning of the summer, July maybe. And we were out there working in the hot sun. And in Afghanistan at the time, there was no shelter whatsoever. And I found myself complaining probably a lot about the heat, about why are we here. And unbeknownst to me, there was a small group of soldiers that were behind us. And in the middle of that group was a lieutenant colonel who had apparently heard me complaining. And he came over directly to me. And the PG version of this is that he said, "Son, you're here doing what you're doing. So somebody who knows how to operate a sniper rifle doesn't have to carry a shovel too." Not only did his rank shut me up, but he was absolutely right. And I think that was very pivotal in my military career because I know now, I didn't know then maybe, but I certainly know now that a winning team, that a winning company, it needs somebody doing everything. That I was proud to be an engineer. I was proud to be shoveling. I was proud to be building a flight line because there were people outside of the wire that were doing things that I wasn't trained for, that I wasn't prepared for, and I was doing my part. And I should shut up with the complaining and do my part so other people could do theirs. And that was a pivotal lesson in my life. I had a lieutenant joiner, and we would sometimes at the end of the day have these talks about life, about dedication, and about leadership. And he always went to bat for us. Even if he wasn't sure if he was right, he always went to bat for us. I remember Lieutenant Joyner telling me that the point of his rank was to do better for the people under him, and that you couldn't do his job very well without the risk of losing it. And I don't think I understood at the time what he meant. But what he meant was, I'm not only willing to go to bat for my guys, but I'm willing to lose this rank that I've achieved to do right by the people under me. And I think that's something that's lost in a lot of leaders or a lot of people in the position of power. I think it would be easy to look around our world today and see a lot of people that see positions of power as an opportunity to just get more power or as an opportunity to get a higher position. And I remember Lieutenant Joyner saying that he knew that the purpose of position and leadership was to take care of the people under him. And that was a really important lesson I learned, because later on in my military career, I became a leader. I rose, became a sergeant, then a staff sergeant. I was then put in that position to use my position of leadership to protect those people under me. And that's exactly what I did. Our deployment to Afghanistan was to build up Bagram Air Force Base. We arrived and it was very rudimentary. It was very basic. We established the airstrip at Bagram Air Force Base. We turned that into a multi-lane flight line with larger buildings, a larger control tower. We didn't know at the time, but there were going to be a lot more soldiers coming in, a lot more established positions within that base. So we basically started the framework for what would be Bagram Air Force Base as a full-fledged base. We had built it into something that we could hand off to the next group and be proud and say, these are the before pictures, these are the after pictures, it's your turn now. I don't think that many of us understood the ramifications of us making hardened buildings. We understood that the flight line needed more capacity, but I think once we started working on what was the hospital, and it was like a hardened structure, it was a hardened structure, that we were building, I think a lot of us understood that the military and the government would be putting a lot of this money into this base if they weren't planning on being there for a while. It probably didn't dawn on us at the time, and I can't tell you that it dawned on me then, but I think we understood that this wasn't going to end with us. Little did I know, 8 years later, I would be back.